Welcome back. It's Tim and Julie Harris, and this is your favorite daily real estate coaching and training podcast. And this is day two of Lowball. No thanks. 4 steps to smarter offers that stick. And I want to thank all of you who took us up on our offer to message us with show ideas and feedback over on Instagram. So if you've got any show ideas, feedback, comments, questions, what have you, please do message us. That's the best way to do it over on Instagram. And we're at Tim and Julie Harris. And obviously, while you're over there, give us a follow as well. And reminder, you want these notes. This is, we went over a ton of detail yesterday, and Julie and I added a lot of detail in addition to what were in the notes. You're going to want these notes, and the easiest way to get them, and then great news, it's free, is just subscribe to our daily newsletter, which is harrisrealestatedaily.com, or click the link below. So just go to harrisrealestatedaily.com or click the link below and subscribe to our newsletter. All right, Julie, without any further procrastination, let's roll back in.
Yes, that's right. So yesterday we talked about the first thing was understanding why buyers sometimes throw out a low ball at you. Some of them continually want to do that. We talked about how to use list to sell price ratio, and you had some great scripts yesterday. So if they missed yesterday's podcast, go back to that and make sure that you get those scripts in your brain. And if you're our Premier Coaching member, you can pull those down and print them out and memorize them. Then we also talked about revisiting their qualifications. Maybe they're lowballing because they just can't afford to go any higher, to know about that. And then we gave you an action plan at the end of yesterday's podcast. So today we're going to start with point number 4. Getting back to educating your buyers on the market and setting expectations. But before we do that, again, we're talking about no thanks to low balls, how to get away from those. How many times, Tim, have you either heard an agent say this or heard them talking about another agent saying this to them? Well, I guess the buyer just has to lose repetitively to get the point. Where I'm just going to let them keep losing second time, third time, fourth time. Maybe by the fifth time, they'll let me write an offer that will actually stick.
Well,
To me, that's not really a strategy. What are your thoughts?
It's not. You didn't pre-qualify them. You didn't set expectations. You didn't actually walk them through prior to actually showing them real estate what your value propositions are. You didn't get them to sign an exclusive buyer agency contract. You didn't act. You just essentially met them someplace, or maybe you bought the buyer lead, even worse, and you didn't take the time to actually understand what their motivation was to buy. So ultimately, here's the challenge you've got with buyers. You've got to remember this. This offends some people, but that's, we're going to tell you the truth. There's no such thing as a buyer that has to buy. And you're going to discover the hard way if you don't listen to what I just said, because it's true again. No such thing as a buyer that has to buy. A buyer can stay renting. A buyer can stay in their existing house and do an addition if it's too small. A buyer can stay living in their parents' garage. A buyer can all the things, right? A buyer always has options. This is the reason that we, in our coaching program, Premier Coaching, we obviously train you up on how to work with buyers, as we've been doing the last few days, but we're also hopefully dialing your brain into realizing that if you want true consistency and income and production, it's always going to come from the listing side, because there are such things as sellers that have to transact. It's not up to them. The alternative to the option to keeping the house is no longer even viable. Now, you will find, situations in the higher ends higher end price ranges where people can keep the house. But for the most part, you're going to have inherited the house, probate listing, can't afford the house, got relocated, need the equity, closing on the new house, need the equity out of the property. You guys get the difference? And there's dozens of reasons why a seller absolutely has to sell the house. There's no such thing as a buyer that has to actually absolutely buy a house. You will say, well, what about 1031 tax exchanges? And I will say, even then, that's not an example, because the buyer can just pay the taxes. Okay. So as we go through these points, we're hopefully helping you to understand that there are great buyers out there. Obviously, there's two sides to every transaction, and you want to be working with the great buyers in order to know which ones are the great buyers, the ones that will actually transact and not make your life miserable. You're going to have to pre-qualify them every single time. And we teach you guys how to do that. We give you the actual script, walk you through the whole psychology of the script in Premier Coaching. If you're not a Premier Coaching client, I've got great news for you. You can join Premier Coaching right now for free. Just go to premiercoaching.com or click the link below. And yes, I want to make it clear, because we get a lot of questions about that. This does include a daily semi-private coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches. So just go to premiercoaching.com, click the link below, or just go to premiercoaching.com, click the link below, and you can join for 30 days for free, and we'll walk you through all this. It all comes down to the bottom line of everything that's going to, frankly, make you frustrated in real estate. It is a lack of you accepting that your God-given strengths and abilities, when they meet the actual test of the marketplace, might leave you lacking. And that's true with anything, right? So even if you're a great agent and you've had a lot of success, the amount of success that in opportunities you're leaving on the table because you're not taking a more unified professional approach, you might think you are, but when you see, for example, our buyer pre-qualification script and you read through it and you actually sort of role play it in your mind between, like, I'm actually talking to a buyer, and you're going to see how you've maybe left a lot of opportunities on the table. You've maybe wasted a lot of time working with unmotivated buyers. And frankly, you may have the listing side of things. Like our first, in our script, when you're initially having contact with a buyer, we want you immediately to find out if they have a house to sell, no matter what the price range in which they claim they're looking. Find out if they have a house to sell, because that's how you're going to increase your listing inventory. Because in most price ranges nowadays, most buyers, with the exception of first-time home buyer price ranges, they're going to show up in your life as a buyer. You're going to treat them as a buyer, but it turns out they have a house to sell. And so by not asking that question right away, oh, I'll just work with them, make them love me, bond with them, all the things that, frankly, unprofessional agents do, you will lose the opportunity to work with them as a buyer. To Julie's question, here's what's going to happen. You're going to be out there working with that buyer, showing them house after house after house. And the buyer, what you don't realize, is getting frustrated with you for not helping them buy a house, even though they might be the reason they're not buying a house because they're lowballing, or they have
Yes, to your point, even if you are writing offer after offer, if you're still losing after losing, it's easy to blame the buyer. Well, they just keep on lowballing. No, it's your fault for not counseling with them. And that's our first point today, which is, since this is a two-part series, officially point number 4, educate your buyers on the market, set their expectations from the first meeting, not on loss number 4, 5, or 6, because what will happen is you'll think they're ghosting you. They're just disappearing. They're working with somebody else who explained to them, who took the time, who did a real buyer presentation and explained the situation and how you actually win, assuming that their goal is to actually buy a house and not just torture sellers until they win on the 20th offer.
Jules,
most buyers, that's not what they're trying to do. They'll get frustrated well before that. Go ahead.
I know, like all the thousands of transactions you and I did when we sold real estate, the ones I remember most clearly are the ones we sold our first year. Right? I mean, I actually remember what their faces looked like, and I remember their names and all the rest of it. And we sold over 100 homes our first year in real estate. It's documented. And I remember the number of buyers that we had that worked with us, that we'd have the listing. They would maybe not like that listing, but they wanted to work with us as a buyer, and we'd pre-qualify them. And we'd find out that they'd been working with another agent for a long period of time, but they, in essence, ghosted that agent or fired them because that agent never found them a house. Okay. And then we'd start working with them and realize the reason they never found them a house was because the buyer's agent didn't have the skill to, show the buyer, this is the right house for you, checks all the boxes, and then ask them to sign the contract. So the buyer agent was waiting around for the buyer to say, yes, yes, I'll buy it, without actually, and because they didn't want to close. They didn't know how to ask for the sale.
Very common problem. We heard that time and again.
Yeah, well, we sold a lot of houses off agents to buyers who are essentially firing their previous buyer's agents because the buyer's agents didn't do what they were actually supposed to do, which is sell them a house. That's what you're hired to do, not fake friend them, not, all the other things. They are working with you because they want to solve a problem. And the problem is they want a damn house. So your job is to solve that problem for them, and then you get paid. And if you don't do it because of your lack of skill, don't be surprised when you get fired. And don't get frustrated if it's happened to you and this is resonating what I'm saying with you. It's a solvable problem. It's called just follow a system. It's use our pre-qualification scripts. It's in Premier Coaching. And that will instantly make it so you can stop losing for yourself, but also stop losing for your buyers.
Yeah, you owe it to yourself and to your buyers. It's, and again, it's easy. Agents blame the buyer all the time. Buyers are liars. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. Well, did you actually do a real buyer presentation like we give you an ethical real estate professional? Or are you just winging it and letting them tell you what to do? I think that's a lot of the issue that I hear about from the coaches is who's in control of this situation? Is it the buyer? Or is it the buyer's agent? And oftentimes it's the buyer, because the buyer's agent is waiting to be sent what they want to see today. And they're waiting for the buyer to tell them what they want to offer on it. And then they get so frustrated that it doesn't work out. So we're here as coaches to end that spiral. So, Your point number 4 is to educate your buyer clients on the market and set expectations, both what will get accepted and what won't get accepted. What is the actual process it takes to buy a house for real and not just be messing around? You can talk about strategies like you mentioned yesterday, what constitutes a deal. One of the trends that I'm seeing in the areas that have more inventory, which is largely Texas and Florida and some other micro markets that have had inventory bubble up, is getting a deal in the higher price ranges means that you get your buyer in contract contingent on home sale.
Yep.
They're not lowballing and being in contract contingent on home sale. In most cases, they're going to have to be close to list price because they're asking that seller a favor of waiting for their house to sell, right? But that's one trend that I've been seeing. I don't know if you've seen that, Tim, is that we are seeing some home sale contingencies get accepted. Not everywhere. If it's multiple offers and you're the only home sale contingency, you're probably not going to win that. But it depends. I had an agent in Texas last week have that fly. What they were offering on had been on the market for a while. It had gone through 2 or 3 price reductions. That particular seller wasn't in contract themselves on anything yet. So they put together a deal that works for everyone. You don't know if you don't ask. And that's why you've got to have that real buyer presentation and a strategy session so that you're on the same page and you don't just keep getting pushed around by the buyer. Make sense?
So she mentioned Ethical Real Estate Professional. If you guys haven't checked that out yet, the Heart of Ethical Real Estate Professional. This is, Ethical Real Estate Professional is probably one of the best products we've ever created. Just go to ethicalrealestateprofessional.com and look at the presentations that we've already created for you. A complete buyer presentation, a complete listing presentation, pre-listing pack, and so all these things are elements of Ethical Real Estate Professional. And by the way, when you're in Premier Coaching, and you finish the first 12 levels, level 13 is Ethical Real Estate Professional, and you get that included with Premier Coaching. Or when you join Premier Coaching, if you just want to go VIP, you also get Ethical Real Estate Professional for free, or you can become an Ethical Real Estate Professional on your own. I've just given you a lot of information, but the point is, Julie and I have created solutions to all the problems that you're experiencing. Open your eyes and stop losing. There's an old saying that I don't even know where this came from. I actually tried to use AI to search where this came from. People always say a Chinese proverb, but AI said it's not, so who knows? But a wise man learns from his mistakes. A brilliant man learns from the mistakes of others. And so learn from the mistakes of others means for you, stop losing on the job. You don't even know some of the opportunities that are getting by you just because you're not pre-qualifying at the highest level. You're not asking the right questions. You're just acting intuitively without a lot of education. And there's the four levels of learning. And so the first level of learning is when you're unconsciously incompetent. That's where you don't know what you don't know. And that's a scary place to be because it takes for you to lose or experience some kind of pain, psychological or physical pain, before you learn that you didn't know what you did. You now are learning what you didn't know. And then you go to the next phase, which is conscious incompetence, where, okay, I need help. I need to know what I don't know. The problem with a lot of people, and not just real estate agents, is they stay in that unconscious incompetence phase too long because they're not transacting enough to know what they don't know. The smart people, and we're getting a lot of these people in elite coaching, we're getting a lot of these people that are joining Premier Coaching, are coming from other industries. We had a CIA analyst message us yesterday who's no longer a CIA analyst. She's now wanting to be full-time in real estate. Well, she was really smart. She's a new agent, wants to be full-time in real estate. She's starting out with on the second level. I'm consciously incompetent. I want to learn as fast as I can so I can start transacting and making money. And a lot of agents, they don't operate like that. They operate in that lower, section forever. And so I'll challenge all of you just to accept the fact that you're blessed because there's always more to learn, which means you always can get better. And you can always, by learning more, you become more valuable to the marketplace. More people want to transact with you and you'll make more money. There's no cap in real estate for how much money you can earn. And as Julie and I have really been hopefully impressing upon you, is we're absolutely at the beginning stages of a 20 to 25 year housing boom. And go back and listen to our past podcasts on that. And you will start feeling over the next 90 days, 120 days, exactly what I'm talking about. A lot of momentum, a lot of focus, a lot of unbelievable opportunities are coming your way in real estate. So make sure you're focusing on that, first of all, by getting your education on, formalizing your systems, making yourself better at the very basics of real estate, and then scaling those up so that you can move up from consciously incompetent to from consciously incompetent to consciously competent, and that's where things start moving. You got your pre-listing pack, you know how to pre-qualify, you got your listing presentation done, you know how to proactively lead generate. That's when you start rocking and rolling. Get there as fast as possible, Julie.
Yes, very well put. All right, so point number 5, and this is the second podcast in this series, of course, is to prepare the offer the smart way based on what you know from yesterday's podcast, today's podcast, all of your premier coaching, your pre-qualification script, your strategy session, your actual presentation with your buyer, which those of you who are just waking up to the fact that you have to have a real signature to be showing houses, you better have a buyer presentation. The days of being able to get away with that are over. So this point is about preparing the offer the smart way. We talked a lot yesterday about knowing the list to sell price ratio so that you're offering something appropriate based on the comps. And I wrote down in my notes, remember too, that not every area in your town has the same list to sell price ratio. Yes, maybe you sell in Miami and the average for Miami is going for 98%, but this little pocket of this first time buyer neighborhood is still going for 102%. Adjust accordingly, know your ratios, do all of your comps before you write that offer. Find out if they actually are a contingent on home sale. You should have vetted that out in your pre-qualification. And remember too, to check their financial qualifications. It is possible to be working with a highly motivated buyer who is not actually highly qualified. You also can have the opposite be true, a highly qualified buyer who's not that motivated to write in such a way that they will actually buy something. So make sure you have your ducks in a row is basically the summary of this point. And if after all of that, they still insist on lowballing and you know it's not going to fly, you can consider doing what we call firing your buyer. Now,
or refer them.
Or refer them, okay? We don't encourage you to do that much of this because you should have done that on your own by going through the pre-qualifying. Maybe they love homes that are 800,000, but they're only qualified to go to 650, and you don't really have anything at 650 that looks like an 800. Maybe they're super motivated and they're super qualified for 650, but it's just too early for them. So they either need to come up with a bigger down payment or wait for their home to appreciate more. It's not that you're going to be rude and fired. You're not doing that. You're having a strategy where it looks like maybe this isn't the best time for you. We go about this a couple different ways. We can look in a different area that has different pricing. We can look at new construction where maybe the builder will buy down the rate so that the payment is what you want. Or maybe it's a good time for you to wait. Any of those things are fine.
Okay,
so back to you, Tim.
You're buffering a little bit, but that's the nature of trying to use the internet in Puerto Rico, right? But like in the buyer pre-qualification script, Julie, one of the things that we teach them to say is like, and this is in the script, I don't remember where it is, but like how far down. But so Mr. Buyer, Julie, how long have you been looking for a home?
It's been about 6 months.
6 months. Wow, that's quite a while.
Yeah.
So in the time that you've seen, that you've been looking, have you seen any homes that you like?
Sure, we've seen a couple that would have worked.
Okay, great. So like you've seen a couple that have worked. Did you make any offers on those properties?
No, we didn't. No.
Okay. Well, I'm out of curiosity, if you saw a couple that were a good match, why didn't you make it? Why didn't you make an offer?
Well, we just really wanted to see a few more to make sure we were certain about that, and we really didn't know what to do next. So both of those got away from us.
Oh, so both of those houses sold?
Yeah.
You're sure they sold? Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. So just so that I'm clear, if I, on a scale of 1 to 10, if I were to show you a property that checked, let's say 8 out of 10 of your, what you're looking for, location, condition, everything you're looking for, 8 out of 10, because there is no such thing as a 10 out of 10 house.
Yeah,
So
we found that out. Yep.
Yep, right, exactly. So if I were to show you one that's an 8 out of 10, again, this is the house for you. Where would you rate your motivation to buy that house?
Oh, I think by now we're at 10, maybe an 11.
Okay, now that's not what most buyers will say.
But most of them will say, I'm sorry, we're a 7. I'd say I'm a 7.
Okay,
Yeah.
a 7. Well, congratulations. That's great. So I'm curious, at a 7, what would it take to make it a 10? What would it take to make it so I'm absolutely going to buy the house once I find it?
Well, it would have to be a 4-bedroom like we're looking for. I don't think we can live with a 3, and it really would need to be less than $1 million because we just can't get our heads around paying more than that.
Okay, so the only thing that's standing in the way of you being a 10 out of 10. So if the house I were to show you, again, it's no such thing as a perfect house, but let's say it's really close. It's the 4-bedroom, it's the right price range, and it's, this is the house you've been looking for. Would you rate yourself a 10 then?
A 10, especially if it was in one of the 2 school districts we want. We'd definitely be a 10. We'd be ready.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to take you sidestep here. So when she said a seven, and that's mostly it's funny. That's what they all say too.
Pretty
I give
predictable.
myself a seven. All right, so you ask them, well, that's congratulations, a seven, or that's great, a seven. Out of curiosity, what would it take to make you a 10? And then they'll say what the real truth is that's holding them back. I'm waiting for to find out if I get a job offer, a pay increase,
My
or
loan's not approved yet or something.
whatever it is. Well, loan proof that it'll be a motivation thing. A motivation thing is different than a loan approval thing, right? But it'll be, for example, I'm waiting for an inheritance to happen. I'm waiting to see if pigs fly, and you'll find out. And then you want to write it down. I'm going to take you back a little further in that script when I said, have you seen any houses that you liked? And they'll say, well, we did see a house that we liked and 123 Elm Street. Oh, 123 Elm Street. I think I know that house. That's a really nice house. Out of curiosity, if that property were still for sale, would you want to make an offer on that property? And they're going to say, well, yes, I think I would. Or here's what they'll also say. I went to a house last weekend in an open house, and it was a really great house. Yeah, that's probably the closest we've seen to anything we've liked. Okay, well, out of curiosity, if that house were still available, would you want to make an offer on it? Remember, you just met these buyers, and they're gonna say, yeah, probably. Well, let me find out if it's still available, and if it is, let's pop over there and we'll make an offer on it. And they'll say, okay. And here's what you're gonna find: when you just use our scripts, you will meet buyers at open houses, pre-qualifying them on the phone. It doesn't matter. And you'll find that that exact scenario happened. Why didn't they buy the house? Because the listing agent didn't ask them, or the agent holding the house open didn't have the skills to ask for the sale.
Nobody asked them to. That is, I know that seems shocking, but that does really happen
All the time.
all the time.
Or they'll say, well, I went through a new construction house and it was really nice and whatever. But for whatever reason, they didn't make an offer. Well, I know that builder, Duffy Homes or whatever it is. I'll tell you what, let's go over there and let's meet with the build rep, register them, agent or that buyer with the build rep. And then when they buy the house, that's going to be your commission. This is what we're talking about with regards to skills. You guys are just waiting for things to happen for you. And if you have a team or a brokerage and you're wondering why these agents that you think have capacity and, they have the potential to be great agents, they do, but they just aren't, they don't come to real estate with the right skill set. Or if they've been in real estate for a long time, they didn't all of a sudden just pick it up through osmosis. They need to be told what to say and how to say it. That's what real sales is. What you guys have done over the years, if you've substituted sales skills, knowing how to be a proactive lead generator, knowing how to present, knowing how to pre-qualify, you think that a tsunami of Instagramming, social media, Twittering, TikToking, and all the rest of it, and trying to convince the world that you're successful, essentially gaslighting your potential buyers and sellers that you're successful when you're not, walking around in a house and acting like it's your listing when it's not, all of that crap, which is, in my opinion, unethical, but whatever. So that's what you've substituted. That's what you think is going to essentially lead the buyers and sellers to want to work with you. Haven't you realized yet that that's just a lie? And what really is going to lead folks to want to work with you is like any other professional. If you're a doctor, what makes a doctor successful? Because he's got a successful TikTok page? No, because he always solves somebody's problem. If you wanted to hire a doctor today to fix a problem on your cat, whatever, right? You're going to what? Are you going to go to TikTok and see who the greatest cat doctor is? You're probably going to ask for referrals if you don't know a cat doctor yourself. You're going to ask a trusted friend or advisor. These are all the things that we say on this show and in our coaching program that nobody else wants to talk about, because what we teach and what we coach you guys to requires skill. It requires time. It requires you moving past your natural resistance to, force yourself to admit that you don't know what you don't know. And that is where a lot of agents and people in life will fail. But the folks that want to be successful in real estate and in life, because the sales skills are really scalable to anything else, they're the ones that are our coaching clients. They're the ones that listen to our podcast every single day. Guys, don't play at real estate, because the sin that you're committing by playing at real estate is you're actually being a disservice to folks that trusted you to help them buy or sell a home. You were given the opportunity to work with someone to help them solve a problem. And because you didn't have the sales skills to help them solve that problem, they might needlessly stay renters for decades longer just because you didn't have the skills to help them solve the problem. It'd be like somebody going to a doctor, it's malpractice, and asking, well, I got this particular problem. How do I solve this problem? And and even though this doctor acted like he was really successful, knew what the hell he was doing, didn't take the time to educate themselves to know how to solve that buyer's or that patient's problem, and that patient suffers needlessly for days, months, years later. Right? That's what incompetence in the real estate industry has done. It's not. We are supposed to, as real estate coaches, focusing on being of service to all of you guys. But also, ultimately, we want you to be of service to the people that you're serving or you should be serving. And the only way to do that is to earn the right to be of service to them by having the skills necessary to help them solve problems. Just like that doctor should have known how to solve the problem when you went to them with your particular problem, or you took your cat to the cat doctor and, all that. You guys understanding the logic here? It does require work. It does require commitment. It does require discipline. You cannot fake it until you make it by making a bunch of social media crap. That is a big, elegant lie. You actually have to do the work. What are you thinking, Jules?
Well, that can sound intimidating. I think some of them are probably, having a little panic right now because they realize they're not using a buyer presentation. Maybe they have a few of the pre-qualifying questions in their head that they typically ask, like, are you working with anybody else? And some of those things that they have intuited, but they're not doing the real work of real estate. They're not actually using the presentation and the formal script. And I think that can be intimidating because in the back of an agent's mind, some of them are thinking, well, gosh, that seems a little confrontational, like asking somebody about their proof of funds. That makes me nervous. But what's the alternative? Finding out that you've been showing them $500,000 more than what their budget is because they're going to run out of cash at that price range. When would you like to find that out? When you lose again? So I appreciate that. I remember feeling that way, that some of these questions were like, gosh, I can't believe I'm going to ask that. That seems a little bit aggressive. But how many times do you have to lose to grow up in business maturity to stick your neck out and ask those questions? Don't you want to know? I mean, as a listing agent, you want to know if you're up against other listing agent prospects and why did they land on those names? Don't you want to know when you're competing? Of course you do. Don't you want to know if the buyer has a house to sell? Don't you want to know whether the buyer is looking at going through listing agents all the time, or all they've been doing is going to open houses? Of course you do. But the problem is most agents don't learn that until it's the hard way. And I have to say,
When they
typically
lose.
it takes 2 or 3 times where they lose.
Right.
And meanwhile, because you're kind of between unconscious incompetence and becoming consciously incompetent, you're living in like that gray area. And the first 2 or 3 times you lose, you make up excuses like, oh, I heard this agent in my office said buyers are always liars. You should, buyers are yucky anyway. Well, that's not growing your skill any, is it? Or they'll say, well, they weren't really qualified anyway, and they weren't going to transact anyway. And then you find out, you see them moving in with their moving truck as you drive to your office. They did, just not with you. So how many times are you going to lie to yourself and say, it's not my fault, before you get your skills together? You're going to make more money when you are uncomfortable now and then growing your skills. And I know that many of you are more comfortable naturally working with buyers, but that side has gotten to be more challenging because of all the things that happened with the NAR lawsuit and all of that kind of stuff. It used to be that you could survive off of buyers and kind of luck out with your business for a long time. But that's not as true as it used to be because you have to be more professional. The only question is, how long are you going to take before you learn those skills? And many of you listening are like halfway there. You do a lot of this stuff right. You have great bedside manner. You've got a heart of service. You really like taking care of people. But every now and then you look at your buyer list, you're like, gosh, I thought it was going okay, but they've ghosted me. Why is that? Is that because you lost 3 deals in a row and they've just given up and they don't want to make you feel bad about it? They're just going to disappear on you. How many experiences like that are you going to go through? We don't want it to be a single one more. That's why we dedicated 2 days of this podcast to eliminating as much as you can the lowball phenomenon from the buyer side when you've got a buyer wanting to lowball. But also I had a note, I don't know if you look at the end of our notes here, Tim, about listing agents. Sometimes for you, it's also business maturity to not just summarily reject something. Maybe you didn't get an offer from a buyer that followed our plan over the past 2 days and said why they're coming in low. Maybe it just is a lowball offer. And your reaction, the seller's reaction is, well, that's ridiculous. Let's just reject that. Are you digging deep on the buyer side and finding out why is it that they came in? Is it because they really can't go any higher and it's a dead deal because you're priced right? Or is it because maybe culturally they're expecting to go back and forth 3 or 4 times and land in the middle? So my note to listing agents is counteroffer everything and see how it goes. Dig deeper on the buyer side as well. We talked a lot about on the buyer side in the past, today and yesterday. Some of this the buck kind of stops with the listing agent sometimes, to not let your ego get in the way and just reject it so that you can feel powerful. We got an offer, but we rejected it. We told him to go, pound dirt. How many times, a lot of you guys listening have been on one or the other side of that, but what was the net result? The house isn't sold and you've got a wayward buyer that's still looking. That didn't accomplish anything.
Or on the
Thinking.
listing side, the seller actually is going to fire you because you didn't get the house sold. So the moral of the story, and I love what Julie said, you have to take responsibility for every single damn time you fail. You have to take responsibility and stop learning. It's maturity, really. I see our little 11-year-old daughter. She'll, not my fault. That's her favorite thing to say, right?
You didn't raise me right.
Right. That's the other thing she says, which is funny. But the moral of the story is how many humans, when they grow up, never have moved past the "it's not my fault" scenario that they learned when they were children. It's very rare where you ever come across somebody who always takes responsibility for their outcomes, even if it legitimately isn't their fault. Something crazy happened, right? But the moral of the story is if you start with every single thing that happens to me, good or bad, is my fault, and then you will then be a little bit more objective so you can go back there and say, you know what, the reason I didn't take that listing wasn't because the other agent cut their commission and overpriced the listing. It's because I didn't pre-qualify them. I didn't send a pre-listing pack. I didn't have a listing presentation. All the things that we teach you guys in Premier Coaching. Hopefully we've made it very clear to you that our passion is definitely to helping all of you guys avoid the pitfalls and move faster up the success ladder in real estate and in life. So if you're not yet in Premier Coaching, join Premier Coaching. Just go to premiercoaching.com or just click the link below in the show description. In the meantime, thank you for keeping this #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate professionals in at least the United States. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow. Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right. And don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video. Remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.